It's time for another Hunt for Redboxtober episode. This is the 9th in the series where we cover 8 PS3 Greatest Hits titles and talk about the complexity to obtain them. Some are so common, they're in every store and convention, and some are so rare, you might go a lifetime without seeing them. But what isn't rare are the comments that these videos are getting, and I love responding to them all. Consider engaging with us if you're entertained or educated from this. Leave a like, and a sub too would also be appreciated. But now, on with today's PS3 Redbox titles. The first game is the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Game of the Year Edition. And what gives? I feel like I've talked about this game no less than twice before, right? Once in the regular white box version, and once in the 5th anniversary Steelbook version. But this Game of the Year edition is the last known variant in the Greatest Hits, so I can finally shut up about this after today. Unfortunately, I made a buying error and you're seeing the 5th anniversary disc with everything else for Game of the Year edition, which I've already corrected this since filming. It's absolutely amazing the number of errors that I catch in doing this series and how I have to go back and update some of my collection from when I first started collecting the Greatest Hits and made some mistakes. But compared to the white cover and the Steelbook, this black cover Greatest Hits is the most common variant. It has hovered around the $10 price point for some time now, and I see no signs of that changing anytime soon. For the price, this is the version to get if you just want to play the game, as it contains 2 expansions on the disc. Other than the typical red case cover art and the disc markings, this is exactly the same as the black box variant. I feel you'll find this pretty easily, so I would not hunt this down online. If you do, you're going to expect to pay about 20 to 40% more for it than you would if you found it in person. The second game today is WWE 12. This was a couple years before the series switched to 2K, and it was the first year after SmackDown vs. Raw. And what I find odd about this is that WWE 13 was subjectively the better game, and some might say objectively too, but it did not receive a Greatest Hits status. Perhaps the lackluster WWE 12 stifled the sales of 13? No, not quite. It actually had nothing to do with how well either copy sold. It had everything to do with THQ going out of business just weeks after WWE 13 released, and so the company wasn't around to push that one into Greatest Hits status. Kind of an interesting story, I thought. The game is pretty by the books when it comes to Greatest Hits. Standard red case, a clear cover art label, the disc is stamped. There's no content difference between the black box label and the red box label. And while this game is uncommon, you won't go tripping over it, but it's also not so rare that you'll likely expend too much energy hunting it down. In person, you'll probably pick it up for about $10, and it has recently come down off of a short spike in pricing to the pre-spike level, so online, this is unfortunately closer to $20 for no good reason. Don't spend $20 on this. Enjoy the hunt. Find this for half that in person. It is not that rare. The Bad Company series is excellent, even to this day, as I most recently played this one a couple of years ago. It's no wonder a game like this made Greatest Hits status, but almost any Battlefield or Call of Duty game was destined for that during this time. It's like printing gold with these FPS games. With the Greatest Hits copy, there's no content difference from the black label. The only real difference is on the disc, in that the Greatest Hits variant is slightly darker, and it's cropped a little bit to fit the Greatest Hits arc font on there. And that's pretty common with a Greatest Hits disc to have darker coloring and a bit of a cropping on the image itself. Bad Company 2 is $5 bargain bin material. This game is everywhere, including online, where you'll pay $8 or more for it shipped to your door. It had a long multiplayer tail, and EA printed tons of copies of this. Of any game on the list, I think that Bad Company 2 here is the game to not hunt down specifically, because there's probably a copy on every block in the country at this point, meaning there's bound to be a yard sale where you'll see it this summer and scoop it up for $1 or $2. Sonic Generations is up next, and this title was everywhere. PS3, 360, PC, even the 3DS. Later, they remade it with more content as Sonic X Shadow Generations. I think you say the X in there, not cross or something. Let me know in the comments. When Sega wants you to play a Sonic game, they really go all out and they make it available everywhere for you to play. And the game is a good game with an interesting enough story that really works for the various Sonic generations that it covers. Give this game a shot on any of the platforms and I'm positive you'll have a good time with it. But we're here to talk about the Greatest Hits version on the PS3. Just because the game was plentiful as a black label doesn't always mean that it's readily available as a Greatest Hits. So how does Sonic stack up? Well, for starters, this isn't usually $5 bargain bin bundle material. I see this more for around $8 to $10 in person. Online, it's $12 to $15 shipped to your door. But I wouldn't buy it online. I see it pretty regularly, like all the time regularly. It's probably the second most common game in today's video, actually. The reason it holds closer to $10 instead of $5 is likely due to Sonic just being an iconic, beloved character, since it has no content difference from the black label. The disc itself, though, like before, it's slightly zoomed in and cropped a bit, and the coloring's a little bit different. And that's mostly just to fit the Greatest Hits placement. Probably had cheaper ink too, now that I think about it, for the darker color. The manuals are different though, so with the Greatest Hits it's black and white instead of the full color, likely again as a cost reduction. The Socom series of games, and as I've said in previous videos on this series, is not one that I've ever played, and I was more of a sideline viewer when my brother would play it. I have no hate for it, the series I should say, but I was moving into JRPGs when the series was at its peak around 2 or 3. So I've really missed the entire Socom series of games. And Confrontation, to me, without any research, kind of feels like it's the black sheep in the series. I only say it's because I never hear anyone talk about it. It's always Socom 2 that I always hear about, right? That's what defines the series, I think. Socom 2 and probably 3. And what probably doomed it, though, was being an online-only game. There's no single player. There are no bots. There's no training. This is always online. And I heard it had a really rocky start with unstable servers. So I decided to do a quick search to see how well this game was received, and the majority of the comments summed up to, "This isn't Socom." Surely knowing this means that the game wouldn't be a Greatest Hits, right? Well, you'd be wrong if you assume that, seeing the game in front of us right now. Because you see, Socom was an established series. The first 3 were massive hits with a loyal fan base, so when Confrontation was announced, people pre-ordered and day one bought this copy before any of the reviews were out. And that was the first wave. And then they made a Bluetooth headset bundle with the game. And this is where they really clinched the win to be a Greatest Hits, because at $59.99, the bundle, where many people bought it just for the headset alone, because they sold it at a full price, was able to count every single one of those sales toward a Greatest Hits requirement. And they really only wanted to buy the headset, because games like Call of Duty, Warhawk, Resistance, really any online game, they all use the headsets, and it was much more popular for those games than this. So wow, I went way more on this than I really thought I would about a series that I don't really even like. But you know, this game is about $10 to $12 in person. It's actually uncommon. There are still copies out there to be had without issue, but not the way that Bad Company 2 or Sonic Generations is available. And online, you're going to look closer to $15 to $18 for this title. It might be one that you hunt down someday, but definitely not for playability since it's an online-only title. This one just feels like a shady money grab to me. Alright, time to make some people mad with Resident Evil 5 when I say I really enjoy Resident Evil 5. And it's scored well by critics too, and players as well. Though I get the feeling it was the first divisive game in the series by a lot of fans. I think you either loved it or you hated it. For me, it was the first Resident Evil game that I'd played since 2. Yeah, I know, I missed out on the excitement of 4, but honestly, I only thought 4 was on the GameCube back then and not on the PS2 until way later in life. But here is the Gold Edition, which is the version to get on PS3 if you just want to play it, because it contains the paid DLCs Lost in Nightmares and Desperate Escape on disc, not requiring a download. If you're really into collecting, there are two variants of this Gold Edition game. One is a clear case with the Greatest Hits cover art that says the headquarters address is in San Mateo on the back. A later print is in the red case with the Greatest Hits cover art just like the first, and an address in San Francisco on the back. Now I'm absolutely crazy, obviously. I took my San Mateo copy and I put it into a red box as God intended. The Gold Edition of Resident Evil 5 is usually twice as expensive to acquire than the regular edition, likely due to the inclusion of those DLCs, because I do see this for about $20 in person, and online, I actually only see one copy of this that exists. One legitimate copy, let's say, which is so odd to me because in person, I see this kind of consistently. Not every trip and not every quarter even, but I remember picking this up at a local exchange store. Online, and maybe in person too, since it's not like I open every single case, but online, there's one sealed game going for $40. And every single open copy, on eBay at least, right? I checked every single one on the first few pages, does not contain a Greatest Hits labeled disc. So what on earth is it with Capcom and Greatest Hits titles? So I of course started to research if Capcom pulled some shenanigans again. But every source that I could find came back and said that Capcom only released Greatest Hits labeled versions of the disc. They never bundled a regular black label version in a Greatest Hits case. In fact, I asked AI, and it said the reason I'm seeing this is because resellers have chosen to not take proper care, and they don't know what they're selling, and they're just slapping things together. You know, they find a disc over here, they find a case over there, they put it together because somewhere in the middle inventory got broken apart because somehow it was easier to store for them, or a theft prevention. And I can buy that. I can totally believe that because I've seen it firsthand. And when questioned, these resellers, they act like it doesn't matter. They wouldn't say that. Like if I tried to sell them a Michael Jordan card with a Scottie Pippen autograph on it, you know, they'd have a problem with that. So why do they do it here with video games? It's just ignorance. So this might be a case where the game is artificially super rare to find in a collectible, complete inbox form. But it sure does make me question why the only games I find that are odd or have the craziest stories to them seem to come from where Capcom is involved. Killzone as a series was Sony's attempt to beat Halo and marketed as such from day one on the PS2. It had secondary competition too throughout its 3-game series in Call of Duty Modern Warfare with its online multiplayer progression and fast-paced gunplay. It tussled with Gears of War, and that was mostly on graphics and cinematic gameplay. And by the time Killzone 3 came around, it was competing with the large maps of Battlefield and the class-based multiplayer. It just had a lot of competition and tried to take them all on. And was Sony successful? Yeah, they were. But not in the goal to dethrone Halo or bury Call of Duty. Sony didn't find it as successful as we did. They created a strong first-party IP that had its own grit and merit. It stood on its own. But I guess it wasn't good enough for Sony with their goals to dominate the FPS space, so the world has kind of laid dormant after the less popular Shadowfall game came out on the PS4 and seems to have derailed the series. It's a real shame too, because this series is quite good. As a Greatest Hits title, Killzone 3 is fairly cheap and often seen in the $5 bargain bundle bins at your stores and conventions. It's also really common as a result, which I don't understand why this is $12 to $15 online where you should not be buying this. I mean, it's a great game compared to some of the other Redbox titles. Maybe not the best Greatest Hits game ever, right? But a great game compared to other titles. But I'm not interested in helping the price go up for no good reason on common games like this. As a side note, the original Killzone is physical locked to the PS2, unless you pick up the Killzone trilogy on the PS3. But fair warning, and this is not a greatest hits title, but fair warning, that game will usually run you about twice what the games individually would cost you. There sure are a lot of Fight Night games, and I haven't played any of them. Not that I don't want to, I just haven't played any of them. So I think I'll be pretty brief on this one. In researching this, I saw a number of people claiming that EA didn't print a Greatest Hits variant of the disc, and that it was just a case and cover art Greatest Hits only. And that's obviously not true, since I have one right here. So I decided to investigate these claims, and I looked online, and I really see no indication that this is even true in the slightest. When you look at a site like eBay listing, every single red box has a Greatest Hits labeled disc in it. So I'm not sure what some people are talking about, or if they had one anecdotal experience and people just took it off from there like an urban legend or something. But resellers often put the wrong disc in a box, and some people just don't have enough brain cells to research this. But either way, it's out there and it's common. You can expect to pay around $10 in person for this game, online closer to $15. I even found this copy at GameStop for $9.99 in one of their sales a couple of years ago. GameStop was surprisingly a good source for me to acquire some of the harder to find PS3 Greatest Hits, believe it or not. I'm not sure if your average GameStop shopper is really looking for Greatest Hits, since they're the same price as Black Label games, so I've often found a good supply there. Don't forget to use that as an outlet. So did anything surprise you this time? I know I was honestly surprised by Resident Evil 5 Gold Edition. I totally remember picking that game up the day that I did it. I went out for lunch from work, and I stopped in at a store on the way back at my local exchange. I wasn't even really shocked to find it or think anything of it that I found it. I actually remember being upset that I had bought the same game twice after I already owned the base edition Resident Evil 5 Greatest Hits. So we're coming up on the halfway point of the series, and I think that'll be in the next episode, roughly halfway. And I don't have all the games yet. At this point, I don't have them all. We'd roughly be doing a 20 or 21 episode series. I don't think we'll get that far because I'm missing about 20 or so games. But they'll continue as I pick up new Greatest Hits either way. And if you watched my video on a collection versus a library, then you'll recognize this collection isn't done until everything is in the Greatest Hits library. This is a library, folks. It's just smack dab in the middle of my PS3 collection. But anyways, thanks again for hanging out with me on another episode here of Let's Build a Collection.